Hi everyone, welcome back to another video in the Web Security Academy series. In today's video, we'll be covering lab number 13 in the authentication module titled Broken Brute Force Protection, Multiple Credentials per Request. Alright, before we continue with the video, I'd like to announce that this video is part of a course that I offer on my academy. Now you might be wondering, why would I buy a course that is made available for free on YouTube? Well, there are 4 reasons why you might want to do that. Number 1 is that you gain early access to recorded material. As soon as I record new videos, I make them available through my course right away, whereas on YouTube, they'll only be released on a weekly schedule. Reason number 2 is that you gain access to a Discord channel where you can ask questions. The Discord channel is divided into topics that we cover in the course, and if you run into any issues, you get to ask questions about anything related to the course material. Reason number 3 is that you no longer have to deal with YouTube ads or sponsor messages. And last but not least, reason number 4 is you get to support me. Any revenue generated from this course will go back into maintaining the academy and creating more videos and courses that will be made available for free on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in buying the course, make sure to check out the link in the description. And that is it. Let's go back to our video. If you do not have an account on the Web Security Academy, you can get one by visiting the URL portswigger.net/websecurity and clicking on the sign up button. I already have an account and I am logged in, so to access the exercise, I'm going to click on Academy, select all labs, do a search on Authentication Labs, and select lab number 13 titled Broken Brute Force Protection, Multiple Credentials per Request. Alright, let's get started. This lab is vulnerable due to a logic flaw in its brute force protection. To solve the lab, brute force Carlos's password, then access his account. We're given the victim's username, which is Carlos, and then a list of candidate passwords. Alright, so the target goal over here is to exploit a logic flaw in the brute force protection mechanism to bypass the mechanism and then brute force Carlos's password. Okay, let's access the lab. Now notice over here, this is the built-in browser in Burp, and so all my requests are already being passed in my Burp proxy. Alright, the first thing that we're going to do is click on my account, and then try to log in as the Carlos user. Now I don't have Carlos's password, so I'm just going to say test over here and click login. And this is the request that is made by the login function. So let's send this to repeater and look at the request. Alright, so you can see over here, it's a post method to the /login endpoint. And if we go down over here, it takes in a JSON string that has the parameters of the request, which is the username, Carlos, and then the password. And this is the password that we gave it. Now, when we clicked on send and we click on render, we see over here that it gave us an error saying invalid username or password. Now we know based on the description of the exercise that this has a brute force mechanism implemented. So if we try this about 3 or 4 times, you should get over here that you've been logged out for 1 minute, and then you'd have to wait 1 more minute before you could log in again. Now, we're trying to find the vulnerability in the brute force mechanism so that we could bypass the mechanism and then potentially brute force the user. So what I'm going to do over here is see if the password parameter over here accepts an array of values instead of just one value. So to do that, let's remove this and then put in our brackets. And then let's say the first one was test. And then let's see if it also accepts test1. And then if it accepts also test2. So over here, instead of passing only one value to the password parameter, I'm passing an array of values, and I'm going to see if it gives me an error or not. So let's hit send. And here we go. So you see that it gave me the error that it's an invalid username or password, but it's a 200 OK message. So that means the request was well formatted and it actually went through and it was processed by the application. So this makes me wonder, if I do give it multiple values over here, is it going to check if the password, so if the correct password is one of these values, and if it is, that means it allows me to log in. So that's essentially what we're going to do over here. We've got a list of candidate passwords. So if we go back to the exercise and open this in a new tab, You could see over here, we've got about maybe 100 passwords to try. And what we're going to do is we're going to enter all the 100 passwords in this parameter over here and see if the application allows us to log in. Because we know for sure that Carlos's password is one of these passwords. So instead of doing this manually, adding the double quote and then the comma, what we're going to do is we're going to write a Python script that essentially puts it in this format for us, and then we could just copy the output of the Python script and then put it in repeater. So if we go back over here, you could see in my folder, I've got a passwords.txt document. This is essentially just this list over here, but in a txt folder. We're going to be reading from this file and then formatting it in a way that is acceptable by the request. And we're going to do that using a Python script called convertpwdformat.py. Okay, so this is going to be a really simple script. The first thing we're going to do is print the opening bracket, and then we're going to say end is equal to an empty string. And the reason we do that is because the print statement will print a new line, and we don't want it to print a new line. We want all of it to be in one line so that it's proper format for the request. Okay, so once we print the opening bracket, we're going to say with open passwords.txt, and we're reading the file as f. Then we're going to assign lines to be equal to f.readLines. So we're essentially just reading the passwords.txt file. And then we're going to say for pwd inline. So for each individual password, what I want to do is print a double quote and then the password. And from that password, I'm going to strip the new line because that would cause issues with the format. And then I'm going to add a double quote, so the ending quote, and then a comma right after it. And again, we're going to use end is equal to empty string so that it doesn't print a new line after it. So essentially what we're doing over here is if we go back, what we're doing is we're adding this quote and then the password that is in the file and then the end quote and the comma. And so this for loop will loop through the entire thing and then it will end with this comma over here. Now you shouldn't end with a comma when it comes to JSON parameters. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add another password. So we're going to print another password, let's say random. Doesn't matter what this is, and then close the bracket. And again, we want to end it with an empty string so that it doesn't print a new line. So essentially what this will do is it'll format this entire list over here into a string that looks like this that ends with the password random. So let's save this and then go to terminal, new terminal. And then we're going to say Python 3, convert pwdformat.py and hit enter. And here we go. So it essentially took the passwords.txt list and it made it in a format that will be acceptable for the request. So let's copy this. Hopefully it didn't time out. We'll put it in here. So essentially over here, we've got all the passwords. If the application actually accepts an array of parameters or an array of strings, if one of these passwords is Carlos's password, then it should allow us to log in. So let's hit send. And here we go. We get a 302 and it's to the /myaccount page. So one of these passwords, we don't know which one, but one of these passwords is the correct password. And notice over here, although we tried, let's say 100 passwords, we bypassed the brute force mechanism because of the logic flaw in the application. If we had tried each individual password, it would have implemented a soft lockout on you every time you tried 3 incorrect passwords. All right, so let's copy this session ID over here. So this is the authenticated session ID. Let's copy it and then let's follow redirection and see where it takes us. It's another 302 to the login page. So it's not actually allowing us to log in, but we saw that we did get authenticated into the application. So if we go back over here, right click, inspect, go to application and then cookies. And then we change the session ID to the session ID we just copied, which we know is the authenticated one. And then we go to my account. You could see over here, you're actually authenticated as the Carlos user, and it says, congratulations, you solved the lab. All right, we successfully completed the exercise by exploiting the vulnerability semi-manually and then also semi-scripting a portion of the exploit. Now let's completely script the exploit in Python. Okay, let's close this and then go to View, Word Wrap so that we could see everything in front of us. All right, the first thing we're going to do is import all the libraries we're going to need. So the requests library, the sys library, the URL lib3 library, and the JSON library. Next, we're going to disable insecure request warnings. So disable warnings, URL lib3.exceptions.insecure request warning. And then we're going to set our proxy setting because we want all of our requests to be sent to Burp. So we're going to say all HTTP traffic should be sent to HTTP 127.0.0.1 port 8080. That's where Burp is running. Same goes for HTTPS traffic. It should be sent to HTTP 127.0.0.1 port 8080. And then we're going to say if name is equal to main, then call the main method, and we'll define the main method right over here. So we'll say def main if the length of the command line arguments is not equal to 2, then print the usage instructions, which is the name of the program, and the URL. And we take the name of the program from the command line argument, so sys.argv 0. And then we'll also print the example instructions just so that it's absolutely clear how to run the program. So again, the name of the program with an example URL. So let's say www.example.com. And the name of the program we take from the command line argument. And then we exit the program because the user ran it incorrectly. All right, this looks good. Now let's assume the user did run the program correctly. Then we initiate our sessions object. So requests.session. And then we're going to say URL is equal to sys.argv1. So we take in the URL parameter from the command line. And then we call a function called access Carlos account. It takes the session object and the URL. And this is a custom function that we're going to create ourselves. So we'll define it right over here. So def access Carlos account, it takes in the session object and the URL. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is print exploiting vulnerability. And then we need to log in. So to log in, we need the login URL, which is equal to the URL of the main application, plus the endpoint to log in, which is this one right over here. Let's copy that. And then we need the payload of passwords. So payload is equal to, first we've got our username. So if we go back to the post request that was responsible for logging in, it was this one right over here. So it takes in the username parameter. So we'll add username first. And for the username, it takes in Carlos. And then for password, it takes in this entire string over here. So for password over here, we're going to say this right over here. Let's copy this. And again, the way we generated that string is using our Python program. Okay, this looks good. And then we're going to say headers is equal to content type, and we'll specify it's JSON, so application/JSON. And if we go up over here, we should see that in this request. And you could actually see over here, it just says text plain, although it does take in a JSON type. So that's interesting. So we've specified that it's JSON, and then we just perform the post request. So s.post, it takes in the login URL. We're going to say JSON is equal to the payload we just set, and then headers is equal to headers. Verify is equal to false because I don't want to verify TLS certificates, and proxies is equal to proxies because I want my request to be sent to Burp. And then the way we're going to confirm that it properly logged in is we're going to say if log out string is in the response, so r.text. That means we've successfully logged in. So successfully access Carlos's account. Otherwise, print could not log in to Carlos's account, so the exploit failed. So we're going to exit the program. All right, this looks good. Essentially what this does is it performs this request over here. Now, the Python script itself will automatically follow the 302 to the /myaccount page. Now, in the my account page, if we go back over here, if you see the string logout, that means you've properly logged into Carlos's account, which means the exploit worked. If you don't see the logout string, that means the exploit failed, and so you couldn't log into Carlos's account. Hopefully, we don't have any errors in the program. So let's say terminal, new terminal. And I'm pretty sure this timed out, and it did, so let's generate a new instance of that. And say Python 3 authentication lab 13.py and wait for it to load. So let's copy that, paste it in here, remove the trailing slash, and hit enter. So far so good, no vulnerabilities, and here we go. So it saw the logout string, it was able to successfully exploit the vulnerability, and so you could see over here, there's the congratulations, you solved the lab message. Alright, so we successfully completed the exercise by exploiting the vulnerability manually and then scripting it in Python. In the next lab, we'll look at another case of an authentication vulnerability. If you liked the video, hit the subscribe and share button so that the video reaches a wider audience. Also, make sure to check out my course if you're interested in seeing more videos like this one. Thank you and see you in the next video.